This rather handsome looking house was built circa 1840, and it has on its roof what the Historic England website calls a stair light. But the only light it's providing any stairs to are the stairs that get to it, so I don't know. Is it a cupola? Is that a better description for it? It's that you can see. Well, can you see if we go up a bit closer? The house has been re-roofed, and that cupola is now clad in lead, and from here we can just about see that the lead faces are dressed over flashings, and the flashings appear to be dressed over the slate roof covering, so all the rainwater should be running off that cupola onto the roofs and away without causing any problems. But it is causing a problem somehow or other. We're going to see that in a minute. Inside that cupola we've got, well, it's a rather disappointing sort of pine-clad structure, and you can see from here that there's evidently been lots of moisture finding its way in, running down the pine cladding there, and a fair bit of condensation contributing to the problem from the outside, inside rather. Nice views out of the window. That's Kennet and Avon Canal between those two hedgerow looking things over there. And the roof a little bit more impressive than the rest of it. But anyway, down there quite clearly that's the roof space, and there's another access to it through there, not going through there, not going through there. There's a little door down here somewhere. There it is. Oops, trying to kill myself. And we have a relatively typical structure. I mean, rafters, obviously, purling with struts underneath it, and that would be a principal rafter there. Sitting on a tie beam down there. Sorry, there's not much room to move around, is there? But here's our problem. Where's our problem gone? It's over there, isn't it? I mean, you can see from here it's wet. I might clamber over there. So it seems to me the water's running down the outside of that cupola into the roof void. And here we have this sort of trimmer joist, which is rotting. These posts are rotting. Chipboard decking, obviously rotting. And how wet is it? Any way of telling? I mean, wet enough to rot. I need 3 hands. Why haven't I got 3 hands? Evolution doesn't really work for me. I mean, that is that's just, you can actually just about see the water squeezing out of it. I'm holding a camera and a torch with one hand. I think I'm a very clever chap. Those little fungal growths, little orange fungal growths there. And so it goes on over here as well. And what's that? Is that sort of, I've had this problem before, can't tell the difference between mycelium and hyphae, but does it matter? That's fungal decay sprawling across the woodwork now. A bit more decay down there. Right. Somebody's re-roofed it though. It's not all bad, is it? It's got a modern air permeable underlay, all stretched a bit tight for my liking. And this is beneath the wet patch in the roof, and you can see the ceilings coming away, and down below the biggest bucket of water in England. Is there any water in it? That looks like water to me. So if it ever was a stairlight like the Historic England website says it is, there's the stairs, so presumably maybe there was no ceiling there in the first place and just went up to the roof, which is a possibility, isn't it? And this is the front right bedroom, and same thing really, the leaking is spreading out around here, probably running across a timber here and there to find its way over to this chimney as well. Here's our house, remembering it's built in 1840, it's natural stone, so there's no damp-proof course. The walls are relatively slender, all the way from top to bottom. They're about 350 millimetres, so I think it's basically a single skin of ashlar, perhaps tied onto a cheap brick backing. Well, without a damp-proof course, it's going to need a bit of help to stay dry, so having a great big buddleia outside the house isn't going to help, because it wants to have moisture evaporate out as much as possible. And if we go inside, we will discover that there is a bit of a dampness problem all the way around the house, but particularly here. And I think to an extent you can attribute the higher level of dampness there to that bush stopping moisture escaping from the wall. It never gets any sunshine or breezes on it. This is the front right corner of the house, and you can kind of see a little bit of yellowishness to the wall there, and I think you can probably also see that partway up the wall the paint changes colour, so it almost illustrates old-fashioned rising dampness from the skirting board up to what is approximately, I suppose, getting on for a metre. And here's the old damp meter, if I can do this. So, well, if we go up to the top here, I've already done a bit of digging around, but shove that in those holes I've already made. And what's that saying? 92, 93, 99. And then we just come up above the line. And yeah, it's still got a bit of moisture in the wall, but at that point it's all evaporated out, so we're at about 20. Fascinating stuff.
I suppose the point I didn't make very clearly is the reason you have a tide mark there is that moisture is both rising up the wall and evaporating out of the wall, and depending on the nature of the wall, it reaches a certain point where the amount evaporating out is more than the amount rising, and then you have a limit to how high up the wall it's going to get.
This is the basement, and that's under the front elevation. Not quite under where that area of dampness was rising up the wall, but I think what I'm looking at there is a replacement floor structure. So those are newer floor joists. Interestingly, I cannot see that they've put any of the new stuff on top of any sort of damp-proof membrane, which is a little bit peculiar. Missed opportunity to help keep the floor dry. Evidently, it's been given intermediate support with this RSJ at this point. And curiously, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here, somebody's put a concrete floor in here and done some excavation, so that looks like ground level and the so-called green sand which you find in this town. Same over here. Ouch, just banged my head. Ooh, not too bad. Right, so yeah, somebody's been digging out the ground to create this concrete floor. There's some strange stringy black stuff. I mean, is that the remains of a murdered dry rot infestation? I don't know, but I dare say some clobber's been cleared out from under here. Has that excavation undermined the foundations at all? Probably not. I think we can see at least that the brickwork does go down to where the concrete floor is now, and probably a little bit further below it. Although this area here is a bit of a new construction, isn't it? It's all quite clearly very wet down here. And this is the concrete blockwork that's supporting the new concrete floor, and there's a lot of efflorescence there, so these are salts being left behind by moisture evaporating out of the building materials. That's ground moisture escaping. Here we have lots more of these little webby things, so I think there was a fairly enthusiastic infestation of dry rot eating on something, so probably some stuff stored down here before. Evidently a breeding ground for little insects. Those look like mosquitoes of some sort. And here we can see where those floor joists are built into the wall. That must be the left side elevation now. They are really very rotten. Looks like, well, not looks like, evidently there was a lath and plaster ceiling down here once upon a time. This is the back wall of the house where there has been a double repair. So we can see the old floor joists are the upper ones, and we've got these sort of V-shaped repairs underneath. So we've got little extensions to the floor joist put in and then held up on struts. And that's a very nice example there. If I can get my light in. Can I get my light in? You can see hopefully that the end of the top floor joist has rotted out of the wall, so that's why your floors eventually go spongy and bouncy, because the floor joist that used to be in the wall isn't anymore. And then they've popped in a new joist and strut end, joist end and strut underneath it. Once again, can't see any evidence of any damp-proof course gone in with it. It's a bit strange. But anyway, subsequently, somebody has resupported the lot with a pair of RSJs, which are now supporting the floor ends there. So I reckon if you're going to go and buy one of these old pre-damp proof course houses, the floors will have started, well, everything really downstairs will have started rotting from the moment the house was built. And eventually it all needs repairing, and it'll rot again and all need repairing again. It's just the way it goes, really. You've got to factor that in, haven't you? And down there, timber steps, very loose, quite rotten at the end perhaps. Yeah, I mean, you can see it's actually turning itself into soil, the creation of soil out of old timber step. I'm out of focus. Yeah, that's just like sponge, isn't it? There you go. Put it back. All the water falling on that pitched roof there, this pitched roof here, and this flat roof is being discharged into this lead line trough, and it goes along here to a downpipe, and we can see from the top that that downpipe is full of water. It's full, so it's leaking. And here it is from the outside, and we can see a bit of rot to the, what is it, a fascia end there. That's better. And then lots of nice fluffy funguses growing out of the joint between the brick wall and the timber frame to that window. And we can see that the wall itself is, or has been, saturated for some time. So depending on what is in the wall, maybe it's got cavity fill in it. I can't see any evidence of it, but it might have been built with cavity fill, in which case you can imagine that that water will be finding its way through the wall. And there's that downpipe outside. And internally we have this. Lots and lots of moisture been coming in, damaging the plaster, damaging the beading. There's that little fungal growth in there as well, I think it is. All the way down to the bottom. somehow it's sort of soaked into the floor, and I think then we've got salt crystallization. I should point out now, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it sounds good. Got some sort of salt crystallization inside the pores of these ceramic tiles, which is blowing them apart. But it all looks remarkably suspicious. If you've got moisture running down there, it must be soaking through the floor, under the floor, perhaps below the tiles, and contributing this strange sort of breaking up of the tile surfaces. But over there as well, it's very wet indeed. So there it is, and if we go through this door, so that wall there is wet on the outside. If we go through this door here, come on, that's what the other side of the wall looks like. It's even got these strange sort of vertical tide marks in it. Need some kind of scientist to explain how that all works, but shall I stick a damp meter in it? Is there any point? I mean, look at it, it's quite clearly damp or wet even.